Hello, London. All right, thank you all for joining me here on this absolute last presentation of this track in this amazing conference. Hopefully I won't ruin it for anybody here. I'm Guy. I've been building web apps for over 11 years now, and I'm chief geek at Conduit. Over the past year since we founded Conduit, we've built it from 0 to over 170 million active users per month, with over 2 million installations every single day. In the 1940s, a man by the name of Kurt Hertzstarg designed this while in a concentration camp. This is the Kurta. It's a mechanical calculator, has no electronic parts, it's all mechanical. And by moving these little levers here and turning the crank, a user could actually calculate any kind of calculation: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, and even square roots. And this app, this gadget, was basically an app, and there are some elements that this thing had that basically made it a success. This thing was actually considered the best portable calculator right up until the 70s, when it was replaced by electronic calculators. But up till then, this was the portable calculator. So let's see what elements this thing had that made it a success. Well, first of all, it was useful. Using the Kurta, any dummy could calculate 1,337 times 80,085 very easily. Give your users value and create a useful app for them, and they will come back and use your app, same as the Kurta. If you give your users value up front and make it easy for them to use, they will become loyal users and come back to use your app. It doesn't really matter what that value may be. It depends what your app is. So let's say an app like TripIt helps you manage your travel plans. That's the value users get out of that. Facebook helps people connect with each other. Zynga lets you have fun. Seat Guru helps you find a good seat on a plane, etc., etc. Whatever that value might be, it will be the driving force that will bring your users back to use your app. The Kurta was fast. You could take this thing anywhere you went and very quickly calculate reasonably complex computations. Especially nowadays, your app has to be lightning fast. Users are used to getting immediate responses with zero latency, and you better not have any excuses in your app to not deliver that same experience for them. Otherwise, they'll just go on to the next place. It was not till long ago where the Google search results page actually loaded much faster than Ask's search results pages. Now Ask kind of got their stuff together and it works much better, but till not long ago, there was a big difference, and it's not a coincidence that Google are #1. And now with Google Instant, actually, the results are instant. Modern. Well, the Kurta, no doubt, was modern back in the day, and I'm sure some officers had a great time playing around with it in bars and showing it off. How many web apps do you know that are successful that look the same now that they did 5 years ago? Probably zero. You may have the best application in the world, but if your graphics are outdated or are not maintained and look kind of old, that will reflect on how people perceive your application. And it may be the best app, it may work fine, gives lots of value, but if it looks old, it looks not maintained, users will get the feeling that it's old and broken down, and again, move on. So, I mean, it could be really simple things like placing some images in strategic places, just updating very minor things. It doesn't have to be full-blown Flash or whatever, not Flash, but it doesn't have to be snazzy. It just has to be look trendy and look up to date, so that users get a feeling that there's somebody behind this application that's maintaining it and making sure that it's working properly and up to date. So this has to do with both trends in web design, to make sure your app looks like other web apps look today, and to give users a feeling that something is being updated. You may have noticed that many iPhone apps, when they release a new version, they'll change the icon just a bit, and that gives users a feeling that there's something new and shiny here, even though that the release may be just some minor bug fixes. But you see something new immediately, and that gives users a warm feeling that there's something new and good here. Well, the first time I saw the Kurta was actually our CEO, Ronan, owns an original Kurta, and it still works, and I had a chance to play around with it. And the first time I saw it, my reaction was, wow, because you just don't expect this small mechanical device to do what it does. And there's really nothing like over-delivering to your users, giving them more than they expected to make them happy with your app and to keep them coming back. Google Voice, they offer a great phone routing system, but the first time you get a voicemail in Google Voice and they send you an email with a transcription of that voicemail, you can't help but being impressed by it. You weren't expecting it, and it's really, you get a wow reaction. Bitly, the same. They didn't create just another URL shortener. They created the same URL shortener, but they offered you stats and they showed you how users are clicking on, where in the world users are clicking on your links, and they even track conversations in real time on Twitter and on Facebook. And even, I just got a new Canon digital camera, and the thing has a smile detection feature. So if you take a picture, it'll only take a picture once the people are smiling. So I would have never expected that, and I probably won't ever use it, but it gives me a great feeling about this new gadget that I have, that it's fun to use, and it'll really be there when I need it and give me more than I expected. So giving your users more than they paid for will actually create a positive overall experience around your service and reinforce your brand. Usable. Well, everybody here in the room knows that your app has to be usable. The CURTA actually kind of failed in that department. It did have a learning curve. You kind of had to learn how to move the switches around and how many turns to turn the crank. But it got a lot of slack because of its novelty and the sheer value that it added at the time. Unfortunately, we don't get that slack, and with the plethora of websites out there today, and the amount of information that users have to deal with every day, they don't have the patience to go through a long sign-up form or read your material or learn how your service works. If your app is not easy to use up front with as few clicks as possible, then they'll just move on to the next hot thing. So make sure you give your users value and you give it to them up front with as few clicks as you can. Advanced functionality can come at a later stage when users are already motivated and get your service and they're willing to dive in and get more out of it. So those were things that the CURTA kind of did, which made it a success, but now there are things that the CURTA couldn't do, obviously, that we have to do to make our app successful. So the first one is to notify. It doesn't matter whether it's emails or a Chrome extension with a badge on it, or a Conduit app or an iPhone application with push notifications, whatever that might be, you have to reach out to your users and remind them, hey, I'm here, there's cool stuff going on here, come back. Otherwise, they're just going to forget about you, even if you have a cool service that they like. You have to make sure, obviously, that you don't overdo it and be perceived as a spammer, because then you're going to drive users away altogether. But if you find the right mechanism and the right frequency, you'll be able to ping them just when needed and then make sure they come back without getting the feeling that they're being bugged. Quora, for example, lets you subscribe or follow a question that you're interested in, and they will send you a notification when somebody adds an answer to that question. Facebook obviously has notifications and emails about items that you indicated that interest you. So just remember to bring back your users and remind them, hey, come back here. Make your app fun to use. Flickr is a great example of this. They took a photo sharing service, which was pretty common and nothing new about it, and they made it fun to use. Foursquare, they're not a web app per se, but they created a game around their application while not positioning themselves as a game. MailChimp, that we've seen here, they're in the boring email business, but when you use their application, you kind of forget about that because it's really fun to use. And Blippy, they have like a flying saucer on their login page, which reflects on the overall experience in the site and kind of gets you looking forward to a fun time once you log in inside. So even if you add just a little bit of fun elements to your application, it kind of depends on your audience, obviously, but it could be just a few elements that give the user a feeling that this is something that's fun to deal with, and they look forward to using your app and discovering all these little Easter eggs and fun things that are going on. Great service. So we all have stories about when we got great service from a clerk in the store, a phone representative who went out of their way to help us. And all these experiences always reflect positively on the brand that you're dealing with. So if you give users a great overall experience, more than they expected to get, it'll do two things. It'll make them happy with your service, which will drive them back, and they'll go out and tell their friends about this awesome service, which is what pretty much everyone here wants. Zappos are kings at this, actually. This is part of their company culture and part of the DNA of the company. And it's especially important when you want users to pay somehow for your service. It takes only one kind of bad experience to lose a valuable user, and I didn't say that. And with the social networks that all these users have now, the collateral damage that could be caused by one user just going out and telling all their friends on Facebook about this bad experience, you're going to lose a lot more than just that specific user. So you have to make sure that you give your users the full-blown experience, great service, no matter if it's the service itself or support around it. I recently purchased an iPad app that it ended up not doing what I expected it to do. It was my fault. I didn't read all the damn text on iTunes. So I contacted the publisher and I said, hey, this is not what I thought it does. And the guy basically who replied, he said, all right, I'll just buy you any app you want off of the App Store. Just pick an app and I'll buy it for you. And I never actually took him up on the offer, but I left that experience feeling great about this company and feeling confident that I would buy their apps in the future because I know somebody's going to be there to help me if I have a problem. The name of the company, by the way, is Kabuki Vision. They just got a free plug also for that service that they gave. Listen and update. The beauty of the web is that you don't have to wait for these long release cycles and deployment plans. You can deploy your code, get it out there really fast, and then listen to users and collect that feedback and pivot accordingly. So you make changes to your application. Make sure, users also, there's no deployment. So users, the next time they hit your app, they'll get the latest version, and you can very quickly get feedback from them, listen to them, see what they have to say, and either make tweaks or pivot your business entirely based on what your user base is telling you. And once you have even more resources, you can actually play around with A/B testing and optimize certain experiences within your application, and even go even further and segment certain parts of your application for different communities or different segments. So it really is flexible, and it's really something that we have to remember is out there, that to leverage these capabilities that traditional software didn't have. And the final point is actually to win-win. I mean, even though web apps are usually considered free, we still have to make a living, everybody here. And if your app is just costing you money, then you're not going to be able to maintain it. You're not going to be able to continue to give great service to your users. So make sure you find a sustainable, a model that'll sustain your business and it'll work for your user base. So it could be a freemium model like Flickr has. It could be ad-based. SMSs, market intelligent, virtual currency, virtual goods, a combination of any of those. It doesn't matter. Whatever works for your user base is legit, and you can play around and have a good time seeing what'll work for your business and what'll help you win. So to sum it all up, what you need to do, you need to give your users value, give it to them fast, and with as few obstacles as you can along the way. Make sure your application is fun and modern, and reach out to your users. Listen to them, hear what they have to say, make changes accordingly, and give them an overall experience that is more than what they expected. And, of course, don't forget to create value for yourself at the end of the day. That's it. Thank you.